Hey everyone, it's Dr. Carmen Bryant. Welcome to my channel, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Thank you guys so much for all your support and your patience because I am busy during the week, and I remember I'm working on a website, I'm working on a course, I'm working on a book, and then we have a conference coming up next week, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But today I just wanted to revisit. I think I had a video. I'm not sure. I think there's a video somewhere in my repertoire of videos dealing with grief and loss. And so I want to revisit that because, and that's probably something that I will, periodically come back and revisit on a consistent basis, because people that are coming out of these domestic violent relationships, especially those of you that have suffered at the hands of a narcissist, you're going to go through grief and loss, and that pain can be excruciating. And so this is something that, I constantly come across, the grief and loss. And so I wanted to come back and readdress that again, of course, and I will do it quite often because this is what you guys go through. Do know that there's also what you would call complicated grief. Complicated grief is when you can't process through one of the stages, when you're kind of stuck. You can't get beyond it, and you have to work through those stages. It's like developmental stages for a child. When a child is growing up, they go through different mile markers in their life. There's certain stages in their growth, psychological growth, physical growth, that they have to get beyond. When they're little babies, they're learning how to cry, to communicate, to get their needs met. When they're hungry, when they're wet, when they're tired, when they just want some comfort, then the potty training, then okay, I know you guys will put it down in the comments for me. The fine motor skills, they're learning the fine, everything. They can't really grip things. They don't know how to, they don't have dexterity the way that we have dexterity, picking up little things, learning how to walk, run, speaking. So they're different learning how to trust people around them, which a lot of you did not get the opportunity. That's why we ended up with narcissists, because a lot of that, was disrupted in childhood. And so we were drawn to that as we got older. But those of you that have been in relationships do understand, and you're coming out of that, some of you are experiencing excruciating pain. Whether it was a moment in time, whether it was a few months, few weeks, these narcissists have a very profound effect on your psychological and your physical. It changes the course of, it really changes the course of your life. It changes your thought, your perspective about people, and the sad part about it is coming out of a relationship with a narcissist has you questioning yourself. Am I worth it? Am I good enough? What's wrong with me? Well, maybe there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe there's something wrong with them. And the thing about it is that people have situations that they go through, life experiences that they go through, and you can use it as a learning tool. You find out some things about your own self, whether you're dealing with rejection, whether you're dealing with abandonment issues, people go through different things in their life. And for this narcissist to have come into your life to disrupt your life the way that they did, this is that time where you can go back and you begin to do some soul searching. You begin to do some soul healing. That's why I always encourage you guys to go get counseling. BetterHelp.com/Dr. Carmen. They give you a 10% discount. Find your counselor before you find your coach. Coaches are great. Awesome. But some of you guys need counseling, not coaching. You need to deal with the mental health issues. You need to deal with the emotional issues, the behavioral issues. You need to deal with the grief and the loss. That's what you need to deal with. And in this episode, I wanted to talk about, there's 5 stages of grief, and then there's 7 stages of grief. I like to do the 7 stages of grief because the 7 stages of grief adds in, after the fact, after the pain. So let's go through this real quick. And some of you guys, remember, everybody does not go through all the stages. Everybody does not go in sequential order. So some of you guys don't go in order that is given. Some of you guys, the trouble that you have is you keep going back into another stage. So you have not fully processed that stage of grief. You have to fully process that stage of grief so you can move forward to the next stage of grief, wherever you are at. And if you can go look it up, the 7 stages of grief and loss, or the 7 stages of grief, and you go look that up. Grief doesn't always have to be, most of the time people associate grief and loss with a loss of a loved one, someone died, but you can have loss of a relationship, a loss of a marriage, children leaving from home, that empty nest syndrome. You have this grief and loss that you're going through, the loss of a job, your retirement, being laid off. A lot of you guys experienced grief and loss during the pandemic when we were on lockdown, So grief and loss, can happen to anybody. Also, there's a difference between the grief and loss you experience when there's a traumatic death. and it's deeper and it's harsher, Then there's a difference when you lose, when someone dies, because when a person dies, they're not here anymore. You don't see them. So you're dealing with the loss of the person not being there anymore. But what about when you're dealing with the breakup, like with a narcissist, for example? There's trauma associated with, they come in and wreak havoc in your life and the life of your family, and then all of a sudden they're gone. So to them, you are not a loss. To you are what we would consider normal, whatever normal is, right? Normal, whatever normal is. But to you, it is a great loss. You've come in and you have caused so much trauma. You have caused so much commotion. You have caused so much uproar. You have caused my life, my health, my youth, my beauty, your handsomeness, if that's the word. You have disrupted everything. You've affected my finances. You've affected everything about me. I'm questioning my own self. The gaslighting has been horrible. So a lot of you guys have went through a lot. So all of a sudden they're just up and gone and they start a new life with someone else. Just like that. And you haven't even had the time to mourn. So you're looking like you're not even grieving the relationship. Did you even care? So now you're hurt even more because you're watching this person just have a life with the other person. The wife has become the side chick. So some of you guys, they left and went with someone else. You guys are not even divorced. So you ended up being the wife was a side chick. They had a girlfriend and a wife on the side. I think that was off of Friday with Pinky. I got a girlfriend and a wife on the side. That's what some of you guys experience, and then all of a sudden they're just starting a life with someone as if you never existed, as if you haven't spent 20, 30, 15, however long in that relationship. You've given up maybe a job, a career to sit at home and take care of not sit at home, but take care of the home, take care of the children, make sure that they were prosperous, make sure that they were doing something. You sent them back to school, or they went to school and you got a job to make sure that you can help finance school, and they started a business and you were part of that business, and then they just up and leave as if you had no significance, and they make you feel like you had no significance. What kind of grief is that when the person doesn't disappear? The person doesn't die and you don't see them anymore, but the person left and you still know where they are, or you have children, they still have to come around, or you can look and you see the pictures, so the grief is even worse. And so there are different stages, and remember that everybody doesn't go through them in the same way. Sometimes people go through in different steps. Sometimes you don't go through all the steps. And sometimes you get stuck in one of those cycles, but you have to process through. You have to feel the emotion. You have to process through. It is hard. It is excruciating pain that most people have never emotionally experienced or mentally experienced. Feel like you're going crazy, and you can't sleep. You can't eat. You lost weight. You gained weight. It's just hard. You can't even get out of the bed sometimes. You don't even want to wake up. Some of you want to die. Some of you don't want to die. You just don't want to wake up. You just want to keep sleeping. So here's the grief and the 7 stages of grief model. So you have shock and denial, and I'm reading it off of recoverfromgrief.com. So you have shock and denial, and you'll probably react learning of the loss with numb disbelief. So some of these narcissists they left, whatever, but you feel numb. You really don't know how to feel yet. So all your emotions haven't caught up with you yet. So you're numb. You don't know what to think. What has just happened? You're in shock, And then you're in denial, like this can't, you may deny the reality of the loss at some level in order to avoid the pain. So, your brain is trying to function to make sense of what has just happened. And so you're trying to avoid the pain that is about to come. Now, some of you think, well, I'm okay. I'm going to be all right. The pain hasn't set in yet. It's like, you stump your toe, you walk around a corner, you hit your toe on that corner or on that furniture, and the pain hasn't quite set in yet, but you're bracing yourself for the pain because it's coming, and then it sets in, you're like, ah. Yeah, that kind of pain. Well, emotional pain. So the shock provides emotional protection from being overwhelmed all at once. This may last for weeks. People that, one of the things we learned in the military, and I know those in the medical field, the first thing we learned, the ABCs of life-giving methods, ABC, airway, is airway, blood flow, and circulation. And the most important thing was to prevent shock, meaning to elevate the legs so that the blood would go to the head and make them comfortable, put something under their neck, elevate their legs, give them water, and keep them calm so that the body doesn't go into shock. When you see the animals go into shock and their bodies are just twitching and everything. Well, sometimes people don't die from the actual impact of the injury or the accident, sometimes they die of shock because the body is going into fight, flight, or freeze. The adrenaline is pumping into the system, and sometimes they're so afraid that, they're hyperventilating. You're trying to get them to calm down, and you're having a conversation with them to calm them down. There's also, there's study done, the body remembers, I think it is, where the author was talking about how he got into an accident and he had to be calmed down to prevent PTSD from later on some additional trauma. And so this is exactly what you're going through to keep to keep yourself from going into shock. The brain will keep you from going into shock by going into shock and denial. Like, this didn't just happen. What just happened? And so, this may last for a few weeks where you're numb. You really don't know how to react. So this type of grief is probably one of the biggest and most important stages. So some of the examples of this is mourning, sadness, confusion, and discomfort. Number 2, pain and guilt. Now, the shock is going to wear off, because remember, there's a lot of things that happen. I'm trying to think. I had an injury one time, and I can't remember what the injury was, but I knew that whatever injury that I can't recall what it was, but I remember that I knew that once the shock of the injury, whatever injury I had, once that shock wore off, I knew I was going to start feeling that pain. So I had to hurry up and get myself to the hospital, because the pain started setting in as I was getting closer to the hospital. So by the time that the excruciating part of the pain had set in, I was already, I think it was my shoulder. It was my shoulder. Because I had an anthrax shot in the military, and the shoulder, the muscle underneath it started swelling. And so it started getting, like, during the morning when I got up, I just felt stiff. And so the pain started setting in. But at first I was in shock, like, what just happened? And I had to run through my mind, like, okay, I got a shot. What is going on? But I hurried up, because I knew something wasn't right. So I was hurrying up and getting to the hospital, and the pain started setting in. So thank God I didn't have a stick shift at the time. But the pain started setting in. So by the time the pain had fully set in, I was standing at the ER, and I had to put my forehead in the corner because the pain was so excruciating. It felt like someone was ripping my arm out of the socket. So imagine now just that physical type of pain, the type of pain that is setting in on your heart. You're starting to hyperventilate. The shock is wearing off. You're starting to feel. So you're suffering unbelievable pain. The pain is so excruciating that you can't think straight. You don't want to get up. You're confused. You can't even focus at work. You're eating, you don't eat. You don't know how to respond to people. You don't know whether to cry, fall out. So you're confused. Everything is confusing right now. And it's excruciating and unbearable. Let's see. But what it says is, it is important that you experience pain fully and not hide it, avoid it, or escape it with alcohol or drugs. Some people do alcohol and drugs. It's okay to go to a mental health professional, and if you need some type of medication, temporarily, just to help you calm down. It might be good to call in from work, call out of work, take a break so that you can. Some people like to be by themselves. Some people want to be around family, in order to calm themselves down and go through this grief process. Sometimes people say the dumbest thing when you're going through grief: it's going to be okay. How do you know that? I understand what you're going through. Have you ever been through that? No, I'm just saying. Sometimes people, out of the compassion of their heart, and they really, really want to help a person, sometimes they say some of the dumbest things that don't make sense. And it really upsets the other person, because they're already hurting and they're looking like, won't you just shut up and stop talking? Sometimes people that are grieving, they want to do the talking. They don't need you to talk. So even in counseling, when people come in, people have lost children, young children who have hung themselves, people that have got murdered or committed suicide, sometimes it's not a good time for you to sit in there and say anything. So I have learned to sit with them and just be. Sometimes I ask them, because I don't sit next to the client, but sometimes I ask them, is it okay for me to come sit next to you? And they're like, yeah. And I just come sit next to them. I have the napkins right there, and we don't say anything. I just sit next to them, I don't touch them. I don't do touching in counseling. And sometimes I just sit with them, and I take I mirror their body length, their body posture. If they're slumped over, I sit with them, and I lean over too. If they got their face covered, I put my hands under my chin, and I just look at them. Or they're crying, I have shed a tear, and normally I try not to be emotional in counseling, but some things are very hard, and I have shed, and I tell them, I said, let me gather myself together too, and I got a napkin, and I'm sitting in there with them, and they were like, wow, I never had anybody cry with me. I said, well, that was kind of hard, you're dealing with a young kid, and I got kids, so, I can empathize. No, I'm not an empath, but I can empathize, And so sometimes you just have to be with that person and not talk. Sometimes people don't need to hear you talking, and if a person is going through grief, even with you guys, you just don't feel like hearing nobody talk. I told you not to be with them. I told you to leave her alone. And people don't want to hear all that. They already know in the back of their mind, but they don't need to hear all that at the time that they're grieving. Sometimes we just need to shut up and just let them be. Let me grieve. If I have to talk, let me talk. If I ask you a question, and that's how some of you guys feel. Sometimes just don't say anything. Just let me be. Let's see. And be careful with drugs and alcohol. Don't use that to, that's how people become alcoholics and drug addicts, because they have gone through so much grief and trauma that they start self-medicating. Don't do that. Seek help. BetterHelp.com/Dr. Carmen, and they will connect you with counselors in your area. They give you a 10% discount. But some of you guys are dealing with the grief and loss. Some of you guys really, 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 sorry, you guys, really need counseling, not coaching, counseling. You may have guilty feelings or remorse over things you did or didn't do with the loved one that feels chaotic and scary during this phase. So some of you guys are looking at the narcissist and you're thinking to yourself, what can I have done to been better? It doesn't matter what you have done. You would have never been better. There's nothing that you can possibly do. You'll never be good enough for a narcissist. No one is. No one is. And so, but you'll go through those feelings like, if I only would have, because they're telling you the only reason why, and the reason why I left, and this is what, because of you, and because you didn't even care. And at the time that I needed you the most, you weren't there. No, they wanted you to keep on letting them do what they were doing without holding them accountable for what they were doing. And so you got to be careful, because, those are the thoughts that are running through your head. Let's see. The realization sets in. So let's see, out of all the stages of grief after an affair, for example, this is one that might be most prevalent because realization sits in that their choice was something that could have been prevented and stopped, and that this suffering and pain was preventable, which it was not. I mean, for you, it was not. For them, they could have made better choices, but they didn't because they're a narcissist. This is the average person. A narcissist is not that way. So in your mind, you're trying to figure out, why did you make that choice? If you love me, why would you make a choice? And you're trying to figure out, what could I have done to prevent you from doing this? There's nothing you can do to make another person not do what they want to do. If they do it, it's already in their heart to do it. They're going to do it. And a narcissist, they already have it in their heart to do what they're going to do. It doesn't matter what you do or what you say. You'll never be able to change anybody's mind, because they have their own mind and they have their own thoughts. A narcissist has the opportunity to change their mind, but they choose not to, because they're selfish and they're all about themselves. And they want what feels good to them. If it doesn't feel good to them, then they're not going to do it. But if it feels good to them, it's all about them. That's what that disorder is. It's all about me. It's all about me. So example of emotions during this stage of grief is sadness, guilt, desperation, and feeling betrayed. You felt betrayed. You feel guilty, like you should have done something that could have prevented this. How could I have prevented my marriage from falling apart, this relationship from falling apart? And some of you ladies, or gentlemen as well, you try to force the other one to be a parent. You can't force the other person to be a parent. If they're not being a parent on their own accord, they're not going to be a parent. And a lot of times you're using the kid and you're trying to force the kid on them, not because of the child, but because of you. You want them to talk to you, and that's the only connection that you have. So you'll use your children. I just want to make sure I'm going to do my part because my baby needs a daddy, my baby needs their mama, and no, that's all about you. That has nothing to do with the kids. That's all about you. If they're going to be a parent, they're going to be a parent by themselves. If they don't, that might be good for you, because you don't know what that narcissist can do to that child. You have no idea the type of trauma and the pain that they can inflict on a child. And then you're looking back thinking, I should have never. This is your opportunity. You shouldn't. And if they're not pursuing a relationship with the child, leave it alone. Leave it alone. You hear me? Leave it alone. I'm telling you, I've seen too much. So number 3, anger and bargaining. Frustration gives way to anger, and you lash out and lay unwarranted blame for the death of someone else on someone else. Okay, so we're not talking about the death, but we're talking about the narcissist in your life that left. So now you're frustrated and angry, so you want to get them back. Most of you guys are in I'm going to get you back mode. I'm going to pay you back. You get that sexy body, you get them abs going, but you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it because you're trying to make them pay. You got all these sexy pictures. You got more accounts than Lord have mercy. You got Instagram, Facebook, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You're making videos. And what you're doing is you're making videos under the auspices of trying to help people. But in reality, you're making videos because you're targeting the narcissist that hurt you. So you're angry and you're spewing out information, and you're spewing the information out from a place of pain because you want to make sure that that narcissist that hurt you hears what you got to say on a public forum. Then you're posting all these pictures. All the pictures of you. So if people didn't know, they would think you're the narcissist. But you're trying to make sure that the narcissist sees and they feel some type of regret. Every picture, you done got Daisy Dukes on all the way up to your esophagus. You got thongs hanging out the back of your shorts up to your eyebrows. You just doing the most. Your breasts all the way up under your chin. Brothers, you got your kings, brothers. You got your pants trying to show all your little abs all the way down to your kneecaps. Pull your pants up. Nobody want to see all that. So really what you're doing is unconsciously or consciously, you're trying to show them you're going to regret it because I'm the best thing you ever had. But you're still trying to rationalize in your mind, you did love me because I know that you love me and I know you regret leaving. And these are the, and I remember when we used to do this and there's just no possible way. You don't went right back up into the denial. You went right, but the bargaining part, now you're trying to figure out, how can I bargain? How can I, I'm angry. They got a new supply. I'm going to be the worst baby mama, baby daddy. Now you the baby mama, baby daddy drama. So now you causing more, two wrongs don't make a right. And you don't fight fire with fire, y'all. You don't fight fire with fire. Let's see. You got to release bottled up emotions. BetterHelp.com/Dr. Carmen, 10% discount. You got to go talk to somebody especially if you're in that anger phase, but you're in grief. You're in that anger stage, rage. Some of you guys can do some horrible things when you are angered and enraged. It's when people have gotten murdered. People have gotten killed because that anger and that rage has gotten out of control because you are so hurt that you are going to play into their hands. You'll play into their hands with that anger because now you're reacting and not responding. This is how they get you in the court system. They can get you enraged and angry like that and keep you in that mode. You'll make some dumb decisions. You'll make some decisions that you otherwise would not have made had you calmed down. Never make a decision when you're angry or when you're grieving. Always make sure that you are whatever you have to do, delay it to get yourself back together to make rational decisions and to think it out. Talk to people that are rational, because in your anger and your rage, you're going to make mistakes and they will take advantage of that moment. They know when you are in anger and in rage or really grieving really hard, they know that they'll be able to trigger you. Either they'll woo you to get you in, and that's what you wanted, and they'll convince you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you're trying to do it to pull them back. I want you to come back, so you agree, and they take advantage of you. Some of you guys found out they took advantage of you, or they can get you enraged because they can't pull you in like that. They can get you enraged where you just start doing stuff and signing paperwork, and I just want it over with. I'm tired of this. Because you're angry. They know that, and they do it on purpose. Everything that a narcissist does, they do it on purpose. There's nothing that's accidental. Everything is planned out. Trust me. Let's see. So the emotions you may be experiencing this stage of anger and bargaining is anger, resentment, bargaining, or stubbornness. You don't want to hear what nobody else got to say. You got all the answers, and I don't want to hear what nobody else got to say. Number 4, depression, reflection, and loneliness. Let's see. When your friends, you may think that your friends are getting on with their life, all but you. A long period of sad reflection can overtake you. You'll look at all the things that you've lost. You're looking at all your friends, maybe that you went to high school with, that are still with their high school sweethearts. They got kids. They bought houses. They got grandchildren. They're enjoying life. They're traveling, and you got regret because this could have been you. Number 1, had I not got involved with this individual, I could have had this kind of life. I could have got something better, or I could have had this with this person, and it didn't. But there's 2 people in the relationship. It's not just one, it's 2 people in the relationship. It's pretty normal. So during this stage, you finally realize the true magnitude of your loss, and you're probably depressed. So these are the emotions that you may go through. Depression, heavy, crushed, frustrated. And then you're looking at all your friends and you just want to, it's like you're on a diet and somebody comes out with a big cheesecake. You want to knock the cheesecake out of their hand, right? All of a sudden, all the food, everybody becomes a cook. You want to knock the food out of their hand. So that's the same way. You really want to sabotage it. Don't nobody care. You can tell people that are bitter because anything good that happens for you or things that happen, you got that one bitter person. It doesn't matter because all men are dogs. All women are this. It ain't gonna last anyway because this is what happens. So people don't want to share anything with you because you're bitter and you're angry. Watch yourself. Watch what comes out your mouth. Think about it. So number 5 is the upward turn. This is when that grief is starting to lift. You're starting to feel like, a human again. Let's see, you notice that your life is a little calmer. You notice that you have the ability to do things. You got a job. You started getting your hair did. You finally put makeup on. You probably finally took a bath. You probably bathed, like they say down south. You probably finally bathed it. You got your hooves done. You went and got your little hooves done. But you're starting to feel normal again. You're starting to feel better. You feel like a friend. You're not traumatized in your own house. It's not anxiety. It's peace in your house, and you're starting to enjoy that peace. Let's see. You'll start to see the light. Now, the emotions that you may experience in this stage, the upward spiral, is you feel more strengthened, you feel more motivated, you feel awakened. But don't let this, don't take that and like, I'm totally healed now. I can talk to them and I'm not going to be angry when I talk to them. No, that's the Hoover. You'll end up going right back into one of these phases. If you cut them off, there's no contact, leave it alone. If you have a child, minimum amount of contact, parallel parenting, gray rocking, do not express, don't try to be there for, they're going to try to be your friend. Don't try to be the friend. This is not something that's going to happen with a narcissist. Leave it alone. The child, that's it. The child gets of legal age. They can make a decision to talk to you. I'm through. I'm not going through this again. That's how your mind has to be set. I'm not going through this again. Number 6, reconstruction and working through. So now your mind starts working. The fog starts lifting. Remember, you got some fog that was there anyway from being in a relationship with them. So the fog starts lifting. Your mind is working again. You can start thinking. You got realistic solutions, problems posed in life. You're starting to clean up the mess, some of the mess that you were in. You're starting to get your bills back together. It may be a long process, but you're doing it. You're doing it, girl. You're doing it, king. You're doing it. So you're starting to feel inspired. These are emotions that you may feel. You feel inspired. You feel determined. You feel refreshed. That was the part of my life that I never want to repeat again. You accept, acceptance and hope is number 7. And this is during that time where you finally made it through these stages and you finally accepted the reality of the situation. Now, most of you guys are like, you know what? I accept the fact that this is a narcissist and this is how they are. And I know that this stuff was not all my fault. I'm not a perfect person. I played a role in it. However, I didn't play a role in being abused. There is no excuse for being abused. And I didn't deserve that. Now you're starting to feel hopeful. You feel comforted. You feel relaxed. You feel more secure. But this requires maintenance. You have to maintenance yourself because most people think that within that year, you feel like this. If you've been in a long-term relationship, you could be injured again. So most people want to jump right back into a relationship. This is not time to jump into a relationship. You got a lot of debris, some residue that you got to deal with. And some people come from families like that. So you got a lot of residue inside of you that needs to be addressed. If you come from a toxic family and then you've been in toxic relationships almost all your life, when you come out of it, it's not time to go back into a relationship because I guarantee you're going to draw another narcissist. And this time it'll be worse than that one. And it could crush you. Some people commit suicide because they just can't handle this type of pain. So this is the time where you start self-reflection, get you counseling. Find you some girlfriends, some friends that you can go hang out with. Find something valuable to do, But remember, grief and loss is a natural part of losing someone that you love. They may not have loved you, but you love. Now, I know this was a long video and I apologize, but I really wanted to address this again because most people are going through grief and loss. A lot of you are struggling and going through excruciating pain. So I just want you to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I am Dr. Carmen Bryant. My channel is Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. Hit the subscribe and hit all so you know whenever I post a new video. I'm on live on Sundays between 8, usually about 8:30, 9 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And I usually do some type of teaching, then I do question and answers, and I go over to Clubhouse. And so when I go over to Clubhouse, that's not recorded, so you guys can come and ask me questions. I want you guys to know that there's a conference coming up next week. Now, no, it is not a narcissist conference. I am more than just a narcissist specialist. I'm also a minister. And so there is a conference at our church next week, and it is the, hold on, let me look at what it's called. You guys see it over in my, I put it in my community tab. So if you guys go to my community tab, you'll see it in the community tab. But it is the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. And it's called the Igniting the Fire Conference. You'll see your favorite, Telsha Edenberg, myself, and then Pastor Murray. What is his name? Marcus Monroe. There we go. Is Pastor Marcus Monroe. And we will be ministering on Friday, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. Well, Saturday afternoon and Sunday. The flyer is on the community tab or on Facebook. It is a free conference. So those of you that cannot travel here, welcome to travel here to Federal Way. The address is on the flyer. So you guys are welcome to travel here to Federal. Well, I'm not here, but to Federal Way for the 3-day conference. And if you can't, just go on Into His Chambers Global Ministry or Apostle Helen Sadler on Facebook, and you can watch it live. You can watch it broadcast live. And so those of you, like I said, I'm more than just a counselor. I'm a teacher. I'm also, more than just a narcissist specialist. I am a minister, and we will be ministering next week for the conference. So you guys are 23rd, 24th, and 25th. If you guys want to fly in, come. If you're in the Seattle area, you come to the building. You guys get to see us live. You get to come, you get to meet us. But it's not a narcissist conference. It is a church conference. And so you guys are welcome to come. It'll be live on HAPS as well. You go look for Helen Sadler under HAPS, and you'll see it on HAPS as well. And so you guys come out there. For those of you that are looking for counseling, I'm a counselor in the state of Washington. Right now, my books are a little full. So if you contact me, if you're in the state of Washington, I have to check to see if I'm in network with your insurance. If you're outside the state of Washington, I can provide you with coaching services. You email me and I provide you with my rates and fees. If you're looking for a counselor, though, you can go to betterhelp.com/Dr. Carmen. Use that. I am not on the site, meaning I'm not one of the counselors. But, they will give you a 10%. I just ate, I'm sorry. But they will give you a 10% discount for services. And if you have financial issues, let them know and they will assist you. They may even offer a grant so that you'll have lower fees to pay. But this is a vetted source. Excellent counselors on there, and some of them have knowledge about narcissist abuse relationship or narcissistic abusive relationships. And so you guys can ask questions about that and connect with a counselor. Some of you need to connect, especially after the grief and loss process. Some of you guys need to connect with a counselor. And so I encourage you. I have a book. It's called Unmasking, The Illusion of Perfection. You can find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Also, make sure you check out my mentor's YouTube channel. It is Helen Sadler, Your Destiny Helper. And make sure you subscribe to her channel. You can find me on Facebook under Overcoming Narcissist Abuse, Instagram, Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. I'm on HAPS, but I don't use HAPS that often. I'm still waiting for them to kind of regulate what they do. Here on YouTube, I'm also on Clubhouse under Carmen Bryant. You guys come join me on Clubhouse. And I usually do lives on Sundays, and then I cut off all the visuals, and then I go straight over to Clubhouse to talk to everyone over there for the questions and answers. So next week, I will not be on live on Sunday because of the conference, but this Saturday, I'll be on live. So thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have a wonderful week. Thank you guys for your support. I love each and every one of you. I'm so grateful that so many of you guys are getting something out of that. You guys stay tuned. I'm working on it. You guys. I'm just busy. Y'all pray for me. So thank you guys so much. You guys take care of yourself and go be great.